I can't believe we're going to get this wide receiver back. He absolutely changes the entire dynamics of this team, and he is going to make you a week 4 winner. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Free for All. We have our Saturday morning update. This is big news you need to know. We've got Cam Newton, COVID-19 list. Chris Godwin, out. Leonard Fournette, out. And despite what's said later in this episode, Mike Thomas has officially been ruled out. You guys need to go to the waiver wire and you need to snag some real solid talent. Like I mentioned, Hunter Renfrow is my number 1 wide receiver ad unless some of the big folks are there. You need to look at the potential of the Chiefs-Patriots game not happening. If the Chiefs-Patriots game does not happen, make sure you have the tools and the pieces ready to play the game. So start looking, start churning, start really looking at that waiver wire. Now, another thing, it is okay to accept a 0 in the kicker and or defense position so that you have the pieces and the starts. So I would be sitting my defense on my bench. I'd be sitting my kicker. And if I find a piece I like, I'm dropping either of them. With a couple of exceptions, Tampa Bay and the Steelers D, those are about the only 2 defenses that I am keeping, and the Ravens defense. I'm keeping those 3 defenses. Anybody else is completely droppable. And so make sure you're getting these pieces. The soft tissue injuries are just off the charts. So let's start with some good news. George Kittle. George Kittle is slated to return this week. If he's on your bench, let's move him into your roster. Let's start getting that second round value that you paid for. Another positive. Now, let's get into some questionable players, which really sucks. We have Russell Gage and Julio Jones, both on the injury report, both questionable. Russell Gage has a head injury. It's a concussion. It's a nonlinear injury. We don't know if he'll be able to play. This is the Monday night game, so he has a little bit more time, but whenever you're dealing with concussions, it's just a crapshoot. I would be looking elsewhere for Russell Gage. Now, Julio Jones is still lingering with those soft tissue injuries. Right now, he's designated with a hamstring injury, and he's questionable. I would anticipate that Julio Jones plays this week. I think with that extra week's rest and the fact that this team is reeling, they're going to need Julio more than ever. So I would put Julio in my lineups this week. Now, over in Arizona, we have Christian Kirk, questionable with a groin injury, and DeAndre Hopkins with an ankle injury. Now, DeAndre Hopkins has had 2 missed practices. With that said, that's not a guarantee he won't play. If anything, DeAndre Hopkins kind of has his ability to regulate his own schedule. I would still count on DeAndre Hopkins to play this. Now, with the Buffalo Bills, we've got John Brown and Zach Moss. Both are questionable. And both are truly questionable. Now, if John Brown does not play, we see a slight bump to Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley. Stephon Diggs is going to be a target monster, so we're not really worried about him at all. If Zach Moss doesn't play, Devin Singletary becomes a little more interesting. He didn't produce in a great matchup last week, so I'm a little concerned of him being a fantasy starter, but it's one of those things, the opportunity may be there. On the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey is still out. We've got about another 3 weeks until he's back. Hang tight. Mike Davis is a great fill-in, and so if you have Mike Davis, that's who you want to run with. Without Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb is going to see an increase, and that could make him very valuable. But you have to remember they're going against Dallas, and Dallas is putting up crazy numbers of yards. And if that's the case, this running game might be abandoned altogether. So be very careful with any Browns running back this week. Over in Green Bay, we have 2 injuries. Alan Lazard is out indefinitely with a core muscle injury, and Davante Adams is still dealing with that hamstring injury. He gave some confusing reports in the last few days, saying that he was only going to come back if he's 100% healthy. The issue is you never know if you're 100% healthy from a hamstring injury unless you go through the snaps. So I think that is more doubtful than maybe we want to say. And if you have any other solid option, I might plan on it until we hear something on Sunday morning. Know that this may be down to the wire again, and you may be without Davante Adams for a second week. Jags have DJ Chark. Doug Marrone came out and said that it's likely that he will play this week, and that he feels good about that. That's still a little concerning, but this matchup is absolutely premier. The Bengals are a notoriously bad secondary and can be torched by someone of DJ Chark's caliber. The Raiders have 2 big injuries, Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs III. Both are doubtful. This will see an increase to Hunter Renfrow and Waller the Baller. It makes Renfrow an actual considerable start in this game. So check him out, see if he's still on the waiver, and if you've got one of these players that's more doubtful than actually likely to play, Hunter Renfrow could be a great fill-in this week. The Rams, Malcolm Brown is off the injury report. Cam Akers is questionable. I think that Cam Akers is going to be benched for Darrell Henderson anyway, so I wouldn't be looking this way even if you have him. Julian Edelman is questionable with a knee injury, and Sony Michel questionable with a thigh injury. Both these players are likely to play. We have the Eagles. The Eagles are really banged up at wide receiver. Alshon Jeffrey, questionable. Dallas Goedert, IR. Deshaun Jackson, questionable. Jalen Reagor, out. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, questionable. And we have reports that Miles Sanders is hurt. This team is operating at 0 skill. If you have a choice to stay away from all of these wide receivers and tight ends, I would. Zach Ertz will have a ton of targets, but if the team can't keep Carson Wentz upright, you're not going to see value. Miles Sanders is a must start, even with the struggles at quarterback and wide receiver. So you've got to roll him out as long as he's healthy. And that concludes our Week 4 injury report. Thanks for watching, and go check us out on Twitter, like, comment, and subscribe.